really quickly clean up a few of the things that you said that were incorrect. You said real wages, I believe, hit all-time high under Trump. Was that correct?
No.
What did you say?
Yeah, I'll pull it up so that we can be specific about it. This is in point one. It's real wages increased more under Trump than any time since the 70s. Real wages.
Yeah, so that would actually not. So yeah, sure, but their real wages were already going up, and they went up even further under Biden. So they were already trending in this direction.
This isn't a debate about whether or not Biden did a good job or is pro-work. It's a debate about Trump. Did real wages go up under Trump or not?
Yes, but if they were already going up in that same direction, right? Then
Trump's policies didn't do anything to curtail that, and they continued to go up. So it seems like it's a point for Trump, right?
How's that a point of Trump?
So real wages increased pre-Trump, yeah.
Yes.
And real wages increased during Trump, yeah.
And then they kept going.
And then you source that they continued to go up under Biden. Would you say that's an achievement of Biden as well?
Not necessarily. Some things, yeah, in some ways, but not all the ways.
Yeah, I think that in that direction. Yeah, but I think that real wages going up under a president is a sign of economic health, not a sign of some sort of like economic catastrophe. That's for sure. And they did increase under Trump more than they had since the 70s. That's an irrefutable fact. And so for you to kind of be like, well, yeah, but who cares? They were going up anyway. Doesn't mean that that's a point against Trump. It means that Trump's policy decision-making and his staff's decision-making allowed for real wages to continue to increase.
What were the policies that caused real wages to go up?
Well, for one thing, when you're talking about economics, you have to be very careful. Like, you use terms that aren't actually economically sound, like trickle down, for instance. That trickle down is not an actual model, economic model. Trickle down is just something which liberals say to kind of reference a Reagan idea, but it's not an actual model. You can Google it if you don't believe me. Just Google if trickle down economics.
I don't see how it's relevant to the debate.
Well, I'm going to explain. I'm going to explain so that you understand, right? So when you're talking about economic models, right, we're in a kind of late Keynesian model. Okay, Keynesian economic model.
Yes, I know.
So there's only so much that the Congress and that the president even have the power to do to sway. And most economists themselves are speculators, and often they get most things wrong. And it doesn't matter which administration they're under, they mostly get things wrong because it's a soft science, not a hard science. It's a speculative sort of analysis more than anything based on the model which you're looking at. So when you take the totality of all of his policies, especially you got to take into account his tax policies, which would include tariffs, things like this. But also you have to take into account something else for economics, which is really, really difficult. And this is why economists get things wrong so often, which is the human element. If human beings, if people feel like the economy is good, it's going to get better. If people think that their savings are going to stay there, that their investments are going to do well, they invest more. There's you would call it like a psychological effect to this. And so just by Trump kind of going out and having his no nonsense attitude and talking about being a suave businessman, things like just the psychological effect of that had a lot to do.
Not a small businessman, just to clear that up.
Okay. Well, whether you think so or not, just the psychological effect of that was actually very helpful to economic output and activity. So the idea here that real wages continue to increase under Trump, that somehow is not an accomplishment of his, whereas he could have come out and had some sort of like disastrous policies or something like this and stifled real wages and real wage growth. I don't see how you could mark that as a point against him.
I'm not saying it's a point against him. I'm saying he's irrelevant. How did Trump's tax cuts cause real wages to go up? Like, can you explain that one to me?
I just gave you an overarching explanation. So we'll start with this. We'll start with this. Okay. If I'm a business owner and I think the president of the United States is going to be hostile to my business, do you think that I'm going to try to expand my business under that president?
Yeah, I'm talking specifically about what you said. I'm talking
specifically to answer my question. I
would like to get an answer to my question because
okay. Well, let me give you the direct answer then, right? Even though I feel like I could just lead you to it. It's very simple. If you think president or administration, if you think President or Administration A is going to be hostile to Business B is not going to expand under President A, right? That's it. It's really simple. So the thing is, okay, bro, okay, ask it again.
Well, what was my question? You seem to know it. What did I ask?
Your question is, what would be a policy or policy making?
That wasn't the last question I asked you.
Okay, well then ask it again, Alex. Okay. Maybe I misinterpreted it. Go ahead.
Because you mentioned that one of the things that caused real wages to go up is Trump's tax cuts. That's one of the policies you point to. So how did Trump's 2000?
That's not a thing. I pointed to. So when you have to understand that tax policy it's a whole. And economic models are a whole. They're not, you can't look at individual parts and be like, oh, this was responsible for 2.3% of X. Okay.
But you're the one that mentioned it. You said that one of the reasons when you went on your economic talk, which I actually agree with a lot of things you said, but when you mentioned, when I asked you, okay, what the initial question I asked is, what policies of Trump caused real wages to go up? One of the things you mentioned is his 2017 tax cuts. Yeah. So I'm just curious, how did those? Well,
if you want it to be really specific to tax cuts themselves, it's because he didn't increase corporate taxes; he lowered them by a significant amount. What that allowed for was for corporate interests to do something that they really needed to do in a very desperate way, especially in Midwestern areas where industry had fled, which is get access to capital. So if a business wants to expand, it needs to access capital one of two ways. The first way is it borrows it. And the second way that you can give them capital is through tax cut. So if you increase taxes on a corporation, a corporate business, the goods and products which that business then produces it's going to be a hidden tax to the consumer. So the corporation is going to essentially pass the burden of whatever that tax is to the consumer themselves. Now, if you allow the corporation to not do that, they then have those funds to make business expansions, which means access to capital, and that was desperately needed. So by him allowing access to businesses to have that sort of capital, of course, wages drastically increased. Why wouldn't they? That's one aspect of many.
They didn't drastically increase. They were going up like this, and they kept going up like this. There was no drastic increase.
That is a drastic increase.
What if it's going up? Do you want me to just pull up the chart? That might be easier.
Pull it up.
Yeah, sure. So let me share my screen. System settings. Sorry, I just reset my computer. Okay, here it is. Mm-hmm. So can you see this? This is real. Wait, I need to. Yep, this is. We have real wages. So we can see in 2000, it's going up. It's going up. Trump was 2016. It kept going up at exactly the same rate, and we saw really the big jump around like 2020, right? Like we saw this real wages go up here, and if this went to 2024, 2024 is when we really saw real wages.
Alex, you're going robotic. Lean away from your mic.
No, he's good. He's good.
Yeah, that's what we saw. Anyway, just to point out.
So when I'm talking about the drastic increase, I'm talking about actually they started going up slightly before this, but I'm talking about on this chart when you're talking about the drastic increase of wages going like this. It is a drastic increase, yes. And so when you're talking about tax policy, when you're talking about allowing businesses to have access to capital, like you would have to agree, Alex, if you had 3 employees and I put 15% government taxation on your business, wouldn't you then either A, have to cut their wages, or B, you have to pass on to the consumer whatever those products are, right? Whatever the additional product cost is now that I've associated with your business.
Yeah. That's the problem with tariffs. And we could get to that point.
Yeah. But before we get to tariffs, there's an echo. Michelle, you probably won't want to mute yourself.
Oh. And Michelle, can you also pull up my screen one more time? Okay, so Andrew, can you just point out to me exactly when the drastic increase happened in real wages?
Oh, since 2000.
Okay, so
a drastic increase, yeah.
But that was before Trump, since 2000. So the drastic increase did not happen under Trump, correct?
No. I was explaining the drastic increase in wages happens when you allow access to capital to businesses.
Sure. But there was no drastic increase under Trump, right? Confirm that?
Well, I mean, there was an increase under Trump.
Yes, but there's no drastic increase, right? Doesn't it look like?
I feel like you're quibbling about nothing.
No, because
whatever. Fine, then it's not drastic, Alex. Like, can we move to the next thing?